Very pleased to have with us on the second segment, Benedicta Agyemang, who is an attorney and the principal attorney at Rehoboth Immigration Law. Benedicta, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, as someone who is an attorney myself, but hasn't practiced in one time, the area in which your law practice focuses on is the area of immigration.
Yes.
Which is an evolving, rapidly evolving area of the law, one that's very much in the news. And in a place like Worcester in central Massachusetts, which has traditionally been a gateway for immigrants and families, a really important specialized legal service that you provide.
Definitely, definitely. And it's interesting that you say that because I've been working closely with a small business unit at Clark University, and they shared some interesting information with me that Massachusetts is actually facing an interesting labor situation where people in the ages from 25 and 44 are moving away. Mm-hmm. And in Central Mass, about 25% are leaving. So guess who has to fill in the gap?
That's right.
Immigrants, right? Because we have all of these amazing universities and international students come. Like my husband, for example, just graduated from Clark University, and in his PhD class, almost everybody was an international student.
Right.
So the question we should ask is that when we welcome these international students, are we keeping them here?
Right.
Are we making it suitable for them to even have the legal requirement to be like, hey, I can stay in Worcester and open a business or get a job? So Worcester is in that place where we kind of have to make sure we are retaining the international students that we have and give them the opportunity so we can retain talent, because most of the young folks are like moving away.
That's right. That's right. Well, certainly having the hospitals and the colleges and universities play a role in many of the immigrants and students coming here, but also as a place traditionally where people can kind of get a toehold, they can get their first job. There's public transportation if they're not relying on a car, and many employers want to hire a desperate need of employees, but they want to make sure that they are complying with the law.
Absolutely.
And would need guidance. So it's both on the individual who might be new to the country, might be visiting, might be a student. They need to understand the proper ways and steps to maintain their options open, not overextending a stay, but also from a business point of view. And so how do you stay current? What are the different ways that you work with people across the board?
So how do I stay current? I'm a member of ALA, that's the Immigration Lawyers Association of America, and we get a lot of information, and I attend a lot of meetings. Yesterday, actually, I was on a Zoom meeting. Believe it or not, USCIS officials were on the Zoom meeting and they were answering questions,
right.
Which is amazing because President Biden recently rolled out the Power in Place program on Monday, and there are lots of questions about it, and people are still like, do I qualify? I don't qualify. Mm-hmm. So I've been in the mood of, researching, trying to figure out how to help people, and part of what I did was to get on numerous calls, and actually USCIS officials were there and they were answering questions. Right. So that's how I stay current. And I also service, as you said, corporations and the individual, because most people don't know this, but for example, religious institutions could give people visas, and most people don't know this. So I speak to institutions and say, okay, as an institution, if you wanted to, this is how you could help the people in your congregation, for example, a church or something. If you wanted to, there was a way that, so let's say someone comes as an international student, right? And we all know that once you graduate, the clock is ticking, right? There's OPT, the clock is ticking. So if you wanted to,
the clock is ticking either to go back unless you have a job, or getting married.
Right. Because the F1 after a while just expires, and you need to figure some other legal status to be in the U.S. legally. Right. So I tell institutions that if you can, you could petition. For example, nonprofits could petition for people for H-1B. Mm-hmm. Churches could petition for R-1 visa. Mm-hmm. People even, so there are a lot of avenues out there. People actually just need to know that, it's actually possible. Like I could actually do this, and this corporation could help me. So I help with corporations and individuals. Individuals from these are options. Reach out and find out. And corporations like, listen, if you really wanted this person, for example, H-1B or O-1 visa or P-1 visa, we could definitely make it happen.
Yeah. And we were talking before the show started, you yourself are an immigrant, you're from Ghana.
Yes.
And what kind of led you to, was it your experience was it your immigration experience that led you to get your law degree and then focus on being an immigration lawyer?
Absolutely. So I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to do some sort of human rights. And it's interesting because right now, when I do immigration things like asylum and VAWA, it's actually entwined in human rights. But funny story, when I came to this country, my green card came with a name error. It came with Benedicta, not Benedicta. And I'm sure only immigrants can understand this, but I couldn't get a job for a while because I didn't have a green card because USCIS made an error and gave me a green card with a name that was not my name. So it was just like, oh, this is not you. So it was just very frustrating those months waiting, and I had done everything right. USCIS made the error in my name. And every time I would call, there would be long wait lines. So I felt the frustration from there. So I do this from a point of, yes, it's my job, but I also, it's a place of passion because I understand the frustration that immigrants sometimes go through. And to be honest, sometimes, like in my case, it's not your fault. Like you do everything right, you fill all the paperwork, oops, there's an error, too bad. So I do this from a place of passion, from my experience. And also, after law school, I went to school in Georgetown. We did DOJ honors. That program takes law students and puts them in different DOJ organizations or segments. I was put in EOIR, that's Executive Office of Immigration Review. So I worked in an immigration court for 2 years. So that's where I got my substantive experience. So I bring, number one, experience as an immigrant, number two, passion, number three, experience I have learned from the courts, because it was 2 years working with immigration judges, writing decisions, listening to hearings, reading the law. So I bring that as well.
Right. Well, that's quite an, an experience, because that you read about in the news and the newspapers, radio, TV. I mean, those immigration courts are really backlogged, overwhelmed, given the challenge. So having some understanding of the process, maybe knowing ways to expedite things, although that is very hard, you bring that as well. So the other thing, your experience from Ghana, Worcester, Central Massachusetts has a large Ghanaian population, a lot of African, West African population, but we're also seeing, and you talk to leadership in the Worcester Public Schools, a growing Haitian population in the area. TPS,
Yes.
which is temporary
protected status.
Right. So there's a whole Haitian population here, a growing Brazilian population in the region. So, and some of the processes, depending on which country they come from, we saw Worcester and Central Mass welcome a whole bunch of refugees from Afghanistan who had been supportive of American troops here. So each situation and the status the status from the country in which they're coming from can all impact how you might handle a case.
Absolutely. So, for example, in countries where they've seen things like wars or certain situations, they are given TPS. TPS is temporary protected status. It is conferred onto them by DHS. So, for example, Ghana,
of Homeland Security,
Ghana, for example, doesn't have that. So, as a Ghanaian, I can't apply for TPS. You can only apply if you, DHS has designated your country that they should be able to apply for it. So you are right. Each country has specific things that they've been designated for. You need to be part of that category to apply for that. Right.
So that, and then there's the whole dreamers, people who...
Yes, the DACA population, yes. And interestingly, right now, the most trending thing is Biden's Parole in Place program, which was implemented on Monday, actually. So this program targets those, who enter the U.S. without admission. So it's not that I came with a visa and my visa expired. It's like I probably crossed the border. I didn't come with admission, number one. Number two, I've been in the country for 10 years. Number three, I'm a spouse of a U.S. citizen.
Gotcha.
And number four, I have no criminal history. Then this program potentially, hopefully it doesn't get contended in court, but potentially allows them to get a green card. If you are a stepchild of a U.S. citizen as well, you could get a green card if you fall the same category. Like you came without admission, you're a stepchild of a U.S. citizen, and you don't have any criminal history. So right now, that's what's going on. And then there's also a DACA Part 2 that had a part for DACA students too that enables them to get some resources. So currently, that's the most trending thing.
Right. So Benedicta, if there's a company out there that has immigration questions, or how make sure they're following the process and working with their employees, if there's somebody out there themselves or their family have immigration issues, how can they get in touch with you? How can they learn more about Rehoboth, the immigration law group, and your being the principal there, how can they get in touch with you and learn more?
Definitely. So my phone number is 929-497-6727. Our website is www.rehobothimmigration.com. My email address is benny@rehobouthlawus.com. So I'm on social media, on all social media, it's Rehoboth Immigration Law. So.
And that's Rehoboth, Rehoboth.
Yes.
Rehoboth, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I felt like I'm flashback to when I was practicing law and
Maybe
in
you
law
should
school.
come back.
Did a little bit of immigration law. One of the most satisfying cases I ever did was an asylum case. I did a little bit of immigration, but really, really important. Couldn't be more timely area of law practice. So if you're out there, we've got an expert here at the Chamber. And Benedicta Agyemang, Esquire, thank you for coming on and sharing about your work.
These days, you've got your hands full in life. That's why we help you bank simply and securely with tools like Face ID and Touch ID. It's why we make it easy to make purchases on the go and get cash back while you're at it. Why we help you quickly deposit checks wherever you are. And it's why we lend a hand with sending and receiving money right from your phone. So even when you're on the move, you can manage your finances. Bank Hometown. Unlock your potential.